Okay, all right, people. I want to go ahead and get this hangout off the ground. I wanted to talk about the Tulsa Real Estate Fund with Brother Edward Anderson, and he agreed to go ahead and talk about this with me. I'll go ahead and send him the link, and he should be joining us momentarily. So there he is. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Pleasure to be on.
Okay, great. I'm glad you can join us for today. And this is like my first hangout on my particular channel.
Okay, great.
Okay, and I wanted to talk about specifically with you about the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. And I already made a video about talking about it. I'm declaring my intention to invest in it. It's something that a lot of Black folks have already talked about. Obviously, it's something that's geared towards our community. But I wanted to bring someone on who especially was knowledgeable about Black economic issues and have a fruitful discussion on that. So with that, I want to go ahead and give you the floor, brother, and you can go ahead and tell the you can go ahead and talk to the audience about this.
Okay, what's up, everybody? My name is Edward Anderson. For those of you all that don't know me, but I definitely make my ways around the Black Manosphere stream. I will say this: one of the best videos on this topic is by Sub Zero 3639. He did an hour break. He did an hour long breakdown of some of the naysayers, like the chief naysayer. I'm gonna dub him Mr. Reasonable Doubt. Tone Talks, and he broke basically what he was saying down. And that's the main thing I really want to talk about. This is not about should you invest or should you not invest. The question, because I'll leave that to everybody to make their own personal decision. This is about when a Black man puts his money where his mouth is. Now, the only thing other Black people can do now, you all, if you're listening to City of Truth, you're probably not in this category, but I'm talking about the people that they are professional naysayers. All they can do is basically try to tear down what somebody else is doing or do what I call reasonable doubt. Because at the end of the day, they believe that the only thing that can save Black people is transformative government. Or basically a Marshall Plan, basically reparations. And I'm here to tell you, and I'm going to get to the fun in a second. If you're a Black person or you are dealing with a Black person, that the key word is only, the key word is only thing that they can think that's going to save them individually and us as a group is reparations, which is basically white people um, agreeing to basically economically uplift Black people. Well, you might as well find the nearest cliff and jump off it, because that's never going to happen. It's just not. So be careful of those people, because those people will feel they will go so far out of their way in order to try to tell you what not to do, because of they just don't they have failed themselves and they don't believe it can happen for them, so they believe it can't happen for anybody. So anyway, with that said, moving on to the Tulsa thing. Is this a good thing or is this not a good thing? It's a good thing. Should you invest or should you not invest? Well, it depends. It depends. And what does that mean? It depends on, do you have discretionary income to spend $500, $1,000? I believe most Black people do have it. If you're buying $500 worth of consumer goods, then you should invest in this, because let's keep it real. You got the money to buy shoes, then you should have the money to do this. Think of this as saving. Think of it as, I'm gonna put $500 away and see where it's at in a year. That's how you need to think about it. And technically, $500 is not even like $40. It's about $40 a month for a year. It's not a lot of money. So I'm excited about the fun. I'm excited for any time I see a black man putting his money where his mouth is, especially somebody with Jay Morrison's background, which proves that when you decide to change, you can change. Uh, and somebody that's open and transparent as he is. I mean, this dude was on the street like teaching, economics to black folks, even though he already made his money in real estate. So I got a lot of respect for him. Do I agree with every little thing he says? No. Because sometimes he can be on the black queen shit, and I'm not on that. But as far as business, I definitely respect what he's done with business. So that's my initial thoughts on that.
Okay, now you said yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, I did hear about how he was on the streets teaching everyday people about economics and that whole type of thing.
It's on YouTube.
I'm aware of it. I've seen it. Now I want to ask you, Edward, how do you feel about initiatives like this being a catalyst for the black community to rebuild um, communities like the original Tulsa, that we had in the late 1800s, early 1900s, where you had 30 square blocks of businesses, Tulsa, Oklahoma, very prosperous, self-sufficient black community. What do you think are the possibilities of resurrecting that sort of black empowerment in this day and age? With
Well, I
this,
mean, Killer Mike and rappers kind of made it trendy, but you had some more to say? Hello?
oh no, you got the floor. You got the
Okay.
floor.
Killer Mike and talked about buying black banks or investing in black banks. Other rappers talk about buy the block. Jay-Z came up with his 444 thing. What you have to understand is the one thing black people have to do is they have to start taking more ownership of their situation. That's even true for politics. I say this over and over and over and over and over. The problem with black people politically is they don't understand the difference between being a voter base and a donor base. A donor base means you have to fund the candidates you want to see. Even black men, you all have to start like the Tea Party submits candidates to the Republican Party. They don't let the Republican Party in almost any race tell them who you're gonna vote for and who is Republican. They say, no, I'm submitting our candidates and we're gonna see who wins. And to the point where it really drives the establishment bonkers. Black people don't do that even in areas where we have the majority population. Like areas like Philly, Detroit, Chicago, we should not have these problems like a Maxine Waters or people that they only want to talk about like reparations or they only want to talk about economic development. Because let's keep it real. You're a black man, I'm a black man. Really, if you look at who needs the economic development, it needs to be black men because black men are the ones who are going to actually build the community. But you don't hear that. You never hear nobody talk about that at the national, local, state, or local level because we don't make it a point to submit our candidates to these people. What does that have to do with the question you just asked? Where in order to have a sustained donor base that is black, who are the people that are going to do that? Those are going to be black people that have solid jobs, and they're going to be black people that have businesses, and they're going to probably be more of the business owners that first, then the people that have solid jobs. Because when you work a job, you can be fired. When you own your own business, it's not as easy for that to happen. You're interfacing with the economy in a lot more different ways. Now, going back to the initial part of your question that you asked, talking about this serving as a catalyst. Well, understand, Tulsa was the most famous Black Wall Street. Tulsa was not the only one. There were many Black Wall Streets. Think of a Black Wall Street as a Chinatown. There's not just one Chinatown. There's some are bigger, some are smaller, some are more known, some are not. And North Carolina, I live in North Carolina. Durham was a lower level Black Wall Street that has Mechanic and Farmers Bank that stands to this day, which has North Carolina Mutual, which was one of the first black-owned insurance companies is still black-owned and stands still this day. Um, Wilmington, North Carolina was a black Wall Street. For those of you that want to ask, well, how big of a deal was Wilmington? Well, they burnt Wilmington shit down too, just like they burnt Tulsa. They burnt Tulsa, Wilmington, and Rosewood. Those are the three that they actually put terrorist attacks on. White people wouldn't have did that if it wasn't doing nothing. And so you had a lot of black Wall Street. You even had Richmond, Virginia. You had a lot of imprints that had the moniker of a black Wall Street. It was just Tulsa was the most famous one and probably the most larger one. It was kind of like what Chinatown in San Francisco is. That's the largest one. So of course this can serve as a catalyst, because when it takes one thing, it creates that domino effect. And he's showing that it can happen. Just like when you first had Uber, now you have Lyft, now you have all these other companies. Same thing there. So I hope that answered the question.
Okay, so do you feel that we will see a resurrection of, not just theoretically, but of physically, of those types of communities in our lifetime? Do you think, Edward, that in our lifetime, you and I, when we have our families, will be able to move into some of these communities?
And Lifetime, because when you look at Lifetime, I think so, but I don't think it's gonna look. It's not gonna be cookie cutter. There's gonna be starts and stops. It's a process, because black people are culture. I don't think people really understand the cultural damage. When I say people, I mean black people. They don't really understand how bad it is, as far as how bad our culture is. That's going to require a generation or two to resolve, because you're never going to see these types of communities if the family structure is not where it needs to be at a critical mass. You'll see some here or there, but you also got a lot of things that are pushing back against it. But the good thing is, there's a book out called Disintegration. And what it talks about is that there's different factions of the black community starting to rise up and starting to split. Because there's certain people that are starting to reject a lot of the cultural norms and say, look, I'm not on this bullshit anymore, or I'm not really on this bullshit. And they're starting to aggregate and congregate around each other. Like when you look at like cities like in Atlanta, like South Fulton, that incorporated, for instance, that's a good thing. But a bad thing is the fact that black women are all over the judiciary system in that area. So this comes back to black men need to start being more involved and need to pay attention.
Okay, now a question. In that particular case, how is black women being in the judiciary, how is that like detrimental?
Because what that's an indicator of is that men are not taking ownership of where they are. And if men are not taking ownership of where they are, then if they don't take ownership, they're not going to look. When you are donating money, or you're financially invested in the political situation, and judges are political situations, because understand that the jobs that people are elected for are the ones that are choosing these other people that are getting hired. Understand that. So it still comes down to elections. If you're not, and when I say politically involved, I don't mean it in the cookie cutter voting way. I'm talking about politically involved as far as you're donating to campaigns. And if you're not doing that, then that's an indicator that sector is not as economically involved or economically airtight as it needs to be. Because areas like Fort Washington and DC, areas that where black communities are strong economically, you don't tend to see that, or the women that are elected tend to be elected, and then you can see the men behind them are strong, solid men. So you can look at this stuff and those as an indicator of the area. So it's a sign. So it matters, even though that's just one little. It's like a sample size. You can pull a lot from it, and actually. There's a guy that I know, his name is Dominique Huff, and he actually has a lot of on-the-ground like blogs and stuff in that area that he knows a lot more about that than I do. And he said it's not as bad as it looks. But even when you look at Atlanta, like, even though they had a black dude, but now they got a woman, you're seeing the wave of women in all these black populated cities. That's not by accident. These are not one-offs that I'm talking about. And I'm not trying to say it's bad to have women in office, but women are going to serve a master. It's either going to be the black man or it's going to be the white man. And typically in America, it's going to be the white man. If it's the white man, that's not good for black men. So it comes back to when you ask me, do I think I'll see these things in a lifetime? You can. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible. But black men are going to have to do a lot more than what the fuck we're doing. And we got to be honest about that. One dude ain't going to do it. You need other people to step up. You just do. And that requires the collective of black men to be aware. And I don't mean all of black men. Let me give you some numbers. You only really need 10% of black men operating with a couple of key rules or code of conduct to really change the thing. And to be honest with you, you only need 1% of black men to create that catalyst to get to that 10%. So it's not as much as you think, but it is something that's going to have to happen other than one dude.
Okay. And that makes a lot of sense, bro. Let me talk about okay, now there's been a lot of talk with people about this fund that okay, this is a fund where we can potentially raise, you know, 5-10 billion dollars. And I talked about this in one of my videos. Okay, now you're talking about competing with places like China. Now you're talking about being able to go to the continent and start infrastructure projects, you know, on the continent, funded and led by African Americans, and that would be a game changer. How do you feel about that?
I don't believe he's going to raise that amount of money ever. I think could you possibly see multiple funds like raising like $1 billion or a couple billion, like $1 billion? Even that, I don't. Even that, those are numbers are a little bit. I could see that, but those are numbers are a little bit. Those are numbers are a little bit too high. But at the same time,
okay, not right away, but I mean like one day funds and funds like
yeah. But here's the thing: you don't need that kind of money. But what I want people to understand is you don't need that amount of money to do some serious damage. What I would recommend anybody that's listening right now is there's a book called Commercial Real Estate for Dummies. It was written by a guy by the name of Peter Harris, a black man. He runs a company called Commercial Wealth Builders, where he teaches people how they make six figures, how to invest in commercial real estate. He has a website called, not website, he has a YouTube channel called Commercial Wealth. Basically type in Peter Harris, Commercial Real Estate for Dummies, it'll come up. I love the site. I love the channel because he breaks down in 20-minute videos, better than Jay Morrison, by the way, and very understandable terms. If you don't know jack shit about commercial real estate, this is somebody that will break it down so you understand it to where it is real to you. Because that's the one thing with black people we got to understand. We got to make things real to them. If we start talking about big numbers, what happens is it doesn't become real to them and they emotionally shut down, meaning they logically shut down, because unfortunately we can be an emotional people. And a lot of times conservatives rail against that, but if you understand that and account for that, then you can deal with it. So let me give you an example, because I want to make this real and then we can talk about the numbers. There are 5 ways to invest in commercial real estate, because that's essentially what this fund is, by the way. It's commercial, but it's also residential. But black people understand residential. Apartments, houses, townhomes. They get that. That's not, a stretch. Commercial is the thing that a lot of people don't understand. So there's 5 ways to invest in commercial. There's other ways, but these are the 5 ways if most people are going to invest. You have apartments. So these are like larger apartment, communities. You have, so anything over like 4 apartments is considered that. You have office space. You have retail space, which are strip malls or anchor tenants. They can be a strip mall or an anchor tenant. You have, you have trailer parks, which the advantage of a trailer park is it's a way to make money off the land until the land becomes more valuable, then you can do something else with it. And then you have storage facilities. So when I understood that, I see storage facilities everywhere and all the time now because I didn't realize how many people store their shit. So, and then all the other things are self-explanatory. And then within that, you have A class, B class, C class, and D class real estate. D class is the hood. You'll rarely see D unless it's really fucked up. Um, C class is what you normally see. You can see that in like even something be brand new and it be C. B and A class are like luxury. Like A class is like something Donald Trump would deal with. B class is like luxury as well. A class is like ultra luxury. So when you understand that, then when you drive around your community and you start understanding like how much these commercial buildings cost, like I'm literally driving as I speak to you around a development in my area that's got 4 buildings, 2 that are 20 stories tall and it's mixed use. Those buildings are 80 million a piece. And that development alone is 8 times 432. It's about 300 and about 30 $35 million, and it's not as big as you would think it is. When you understand that, then you can then more understand how much it takes to do things in the United States. Now, you mentioned also going to Africa. Funds like that would not be designed to build they would be designed to mainly build the United States. But um, if you can do funds like this, because you don't have to have a fund in the SEC to build in Africa. All you have to do is have an LLC with people that are organized as far as what they want to invest their money. Ghana Dan invests in Africa, and he's spending almost, compared to the numbers I just said, 320 million. He's spending no money. He's spending like in the like 150,000 for like 80 acres or some shit. They're like paying like $10,000 for like 10 acres. Like they're paying no money for, and that's in Ghana. It's like an hour away from Accra. So it doesn't take a lot to invest in Africa, but the problem is that's not real to a lot of black people. So it comes back to that. So you don't have to get those numbers in order to do a lot of really great things. That's my point. That's my main point.
Okay, now, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, but my view is, I think that initiatives like this, like the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, um, if black people, if we're going to secure our position in this country, towards the future, we're going to have to do that with Africa. Okay, we're gonna have to somehow find a way to invest in Africa, make Africa stronger, because I feel that the stronger Africa is, the stronger our position is here in the United States. You agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's Dr. Claude Anderson all day, and I know you have your butt-ins with BGS. That's something BGS says. The problem is only 5% of black people have passports, and I theorize at about what 1.2 shit, not even 1.2 million. You could argue about 600, 700,000 African American men have passports. I'm talking about true blue African Americans, not like other blacks. You know, they would have a passport because they have family in the areas that they're coming from, whether they're continental Africans, Afro Caribbeans, or Afro Latinos. So that's going to have to go up, because if it's not real to people, people are not going to invest. That's number one. So it can't be just people going over there and then selling a dream of investing in Africa, how great it is, even though every race is fucking in Africa, but African Americans, it seems like. But a lot, so we're gonna have to get that number up, and that's gonna require us having our communication apparatus on point to shut down naysayers. Because as you know, there's a lot of idiots out here that want to give everybody a reason not to get a passport. Hell, if you never travel, you get a passport, you know you can vote, because that's the strongest ID that you can have. But see, people don't think of it that way. So as far as the wealth stuff, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a lot of wealth that can be unlocked in Africa. I'll give you an example. Let me give you a perfect example. Because a lot of times people will kind of have this mentality of me or other people talk about exploiting Africans. I'm not talking about that. Africa, I'm a big movie person. So we know we have Black Hollywood, even though we call it Black Hollywood, but you know, Black people don't own as much as they could when it comes to distribution and actually the making of movies. This is why we're always begging white liberals for the ability to make a movie, and we start taking up their causes, looking like a damn fool. But what a lot of people don't know is Nigeria has its own movie market. They call it Nollywood, not a in which. And one thing that's good about Nigeria is the Nigerian movie market, Nollywood. They spend a hell of a lot. No, they don't spend a hell of a lot of money. They do a lot of productions. They do like 1,000 productions. They do a lot of productions. So a lot of Nigerians have practice with the camera work and stuff like that. And the government does spend money on they do fund Nollywood. And Nigeria is the largest oil producer in OPEC. They're the largest African oil producer in OPEC, which is OPEC is the oil cartel Saudi Arabia and all of that belong to. The difference, though, is because their market is so small, they can only justify spending so much money. Otherwise, they're just burning money. Now, with the emergence of technology, like you're seeing all this internet TV, you're seeing all these apps and stuff. You see Netflix where you can get quite a few Nigerian movies and stuff. Now they have access to a market, African Americans, that can justify them getting more. How does that benefit African Americans? Well, African Americans can go over there and get a lot of the practice that we need to. We can also make productions a lot more inexpensively, and we can like Afrofuturism and stuff like that. And we can control what we do and control the distribution in an emerging market, because 40% of the people in like by 2050 will live in Africa, and the middle class is coming hard. So that's a growth thing. But so Africans or Nigerians benefit because they're getting American investment. Americans benefit because we're getting the practice with the equipment, high level equipment that we need, because we will bring that over there so we can start making our own movies and doing better productions in the United States, independent of white people. So we're vertically integrated when it comes to a studio, not having white writers or liberal writers or cameramen, because we can't find people to do good shit. Shout out to TJ Vlad, because he's exactly the motherfucker I'm talking about getting rid of. Okay. And that's how you build an industry and build wealth that way. But that's a long-term process.
Okay. And that's good. But I want to get back to the meat of the subject here. Yeah. Now it's called a tier 2. Tier 2 investment? Was that the name of it? Or
yeah,
tier 2. Now, what is your insight in how those types of investment work? Is there anything that the audience needs to know?
Well, I mean, I'm not an expert on those types of investments, but what I will say is this. You know, anybody that reads like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it talks about investments like that. And investments like that, those are heavily regulated investments because they don't want like Bernie Madoffs or scam artists to come around. What they want is to make it very clear in the legal paperwork that you are investing in an investment, that you could lose all of your money. This is not a thing where you can just put money in and keep money out. They are required to be as transparent as they can be. Meaning, like, for instance, if you invest in the Tulsa fund, you got to leave your money in there a year at least before you can pull it out. And basically you got to buy 10 shares. That's something he's saying. And they have to disclose that. So with investments like that, usually you go do something like a Scott trade or something like that. But the reality is real estate investment funds, as far as the Dow index, is actually a relatively newer thing. So my point is, what you need to understand is basically this. If you invest the money in there, understand it's going to stay in there for at least a year. It's $500 minimum. And you need to invest it. You need to be a long-term investor. This is not designed to be speculative investing. Like how people will talk about in cryptocurrency, you can put the money in and pull it out. No. If you're not thinking long-term, then you shouldn't do it. This is, and I'm not trying to tell people what to do, but this is for people that have 401ks and are trying to do a different investment other than a 401k. You know what I'm saying? But they're working and they understand that they're going to have a longer term strategy. Now, am I telling you to invest all your money in your 401k in the Tulsa real estate fund? Hell no, I ain't telling you to do that. What I'm telling you, though, is you can take a percentage of your 401k and ask yourself, is how much percentage am I worth risking? Because I don't think you're not going to lose your money. Like, you're not going to lose all your money. That's not going to happen. And I don't believe that's going to happen. But that's the type of people that he's looking for. He's not looking for people that are not thinking about investments to all of a sudden think that this is some kind of get rich quick bullshit. It's not what he's talking about.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah,
there's nothing special about tier 2 that's like different from anything else. It's just, that's just some legal jargon. All it means is his fund is monitored on the Dow Jones index, or whichever is the real estate section of that. That's all that really means.
Okay, and it's also backed up by the SEC, right?
Yeah, well, it's Yep, so it's regulated by the SEC, and he's a black man. He's a black man that has a record. So you know, good goddamn well they watching his ass.
Exactly. and the reason I think that's a good thing is because I think recently in the black community, with most prominently with people like Umar Johnson, we've had we have people who have asked for investments from the black community, but they really weren't qualified to handle large amounts of money, and they really didn't have the organizational infrastructure.
Let's be fair, Umar asked for donations. A donation is not an investment. So if people, now I get what you're saying, because it is more of an emotional investment and commitment. So I will give you that. But when you're asking for an investment, you're expecting a return on that investment. That's the definition of an investment. When you're asking for a donation, I mean, when I give a homeless black man, because I don't give money to homeless, I only give money to homeless black people. Let's say that if I'm gonna give money, right? Because I ain't got, yeah. So my point is, I'm not expecting a return on that. If I see that dude back there, even if I knew that dude bought crack, I'm gonna be mad. But at the end of the day, it's a donation. Now, was he qualified to handle the money? He should have had somebody around him that was qualified to handle. The money wasn't the issue. The issue was his vision. The issue was Umar was a type of dude that his ego kind of got past his common sense. Because a lot of people want to act like the money's gone. I don't know if it is. I don't know, and I'm not a fan of Umar Johnson. Let me be clear about that. But I always want to be clear when I'm disseminating that. So yeah, I agree with you. He probably wasn't qualified. He probably would have had somebody. He should have had somebody around him. But then again, he was too egotistical to think that way. So
yeah. Absolutely. And but that's my biggest concern. But like I was saying, I think that's going towards the future as black people. We need to be a lot more. How should I say? We need to be a lot more cognizant of where we put our money, how it's regulated, and that whole type of thing. That's going to help going forward. That's really going to help.
One thing I want to address, going back to what you said as far as the billions of dollars thing, one of the positive caveats is always like when I kind of rail on something, I also want to give the alternative. Understand something about that. I believe in underselling and over-delivering. And when it comes to black people, you have to demonstrate. That's one reason why I respect what O'Shea does. O'Shea undersells and over-delivers, and he does it consistently. That's what black people need to see in order to get comfortable with investing with more black people as a culture. That's why I was tempering those expectations. However, when you was talking about those numbers, there's already a guy that's very close to achieving what you said as far as $1 billion. Do you know who Don Peebles is?
Absolutely. Very well aware of that, brother.
Don Peebles worth $750 million, and that's all in real estate. So that's an example of a guy that's at that level. So it's not that I don't see people out there. It's not that I don't know. It's that I don't want people. I want to always have these conservative numbers, so because people need to be focused on the process and understand that this is going to be a slug. It's not something that's going to be done in a day, and they need to. Black people need to be emotionally prepared for that, because a lot of times we have a bad habit of looking for an easy way out, and this is a big reason why, coming back to what you just said, black people are not as discerning with their money. This is why that is, because they want an easy way out. They want this, oh, do this and everything will be fine. And things are, that's how we vote. You know, we vote thinking this person's going to handle everything and not understanding that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And we spend our money like it's a sprint and we pay for it. Now, also going back to what you said as far as being wary of who we give our money to, that's true, but we also gotta be aware of when our emotions are clouding our judgment. For instance, you are for the Tulsa Fund. Now, I spent the first couple of minutes that you asked me to talk. The first thing I said was addressing the naysayers, because you got a lot of people that's saying the dumbest shit out here, and you can tell all they're doing is throwing mud at Jay Morrison. Jay Morrison has done a lot of real estate development deals, like low-level development deals. But people talk about, I don't know his background. You need to ask him what type of guy he is. I mean, Tone Talk, the leader of this damn movement. And then Vlad actually took his video and put it on his website, which does over 5 million hits. And I checked, it does 5 million views a month. Was to give you an example, most of the black blogs like Atlanta Black Star, Very Smart Brothers combined don't do that type of traffic. So now everybody's got this kind of side eye with Jay Morrison, because so many more naysayers are having a bigger voice than him actually doing the fun. And the fun is doing well now, but you know, that can have an effect. So we always got to be wary when we want to make these comparisons. Because even when you said Umar, it's like you're for Jay, but then against Umar, which I agree with the reasons why you were from Umar. But at the same time, what I always tell people is this: if you're going to rail against somebody, I'm not talking to you about Umar. I don't give a damn about Umar. What I'm saying is, if you're going to rail against anybody, whether it's Jay Morrison or anything, always have an alternative. So, and when I say alternative, I'm not talking about you got to produce the alternative, but have something you can compare to. So you can say, if you want to rail against Jay Morrison, you better be able to tell me what the ideal black man that's investing in real estate is. If you don't know, then I know you're full of shit. And that's how you separate people that are professional naysayers from people that actually got some legitimate critiques. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. It does.
Okay, so yeah.
All right, now I think we've kind of almost come full circle here. I can't, you said you only had an hour, right?
Still got 20 minutes.
Okay, cool. She want to talk about you. Do you think that because he raised like $10 million in a week, right? I remember seeing.
And so everybody was critiquing. I'm in marketing, and everybody was critiquing. One of the main things people talking shit about is, oh, it looks like a music video. The fuck is he doing? Well, I mean, he's selling this. That's how you know he's selling to black people. I mean, and I don't say that to be a dig, but with us, you gotta look like you got something, and you gotta exaggerate that. Just like with our sisters are attracted to the exaggerated masculine. We are primed to be attracted to an exaggerated promotion, and you can't like this is why I tell people, I don't give a fuck how much money you have. You know, good and goddamn now, maybe not you, City. I know I'm not in this category, because you got people like that are in a category where they're really about money, so they don't have to be shown this. But you can't tell me that the average black person, if you walk up to somebody like Bill Gates, and I mean you're a black man walking up to black people that's got money like Bill Gates, thinking you gonna get money up out of people talking about investments. And I'll give you a perfect example. Do you know when you look at pastors in the church, aren't pastors in the church usually very well dressed? Even good pastors that you've seen. You haven't seen bad dressed pastors, correct or incorrect?
Correct.
Black pastors. White pastors, that's not necessarily the case. White pastors, it's kind of the same dynamics with business. They'll be buttoned down. There'll be a lot of different stuff because in the white community they have not been, even though they're consumers as hell well too, but they haven't been like baptized in this hyper consumerism that black people have. So even in the church, you see that our pastors always have to look good because it's an image. Now that doesn't mean he's trying to sell you snake oil. It just he understands how you respond. And when you understand marketing, understand sales, there's a science behind it. It's not image matters, and he understands that. And if he's going to sell to black people, he had to put together a certain type of image in order to build his credibility. Now, if you look at Jay Morrison when he's out there talking to these dudes in the streets, which by the way, to give you an example, because people thought that was very gimmicky. If anybody knows this guy by the name of Ty Lopez, which is a very powerful Hispanic marketer, and he does a lot of videos on YouTube or videos on Facebook that get like a lot of traffic, a lot of views, dude makes a lot of money. He does the exact same thing. In fact, he has the white paper board thing he does too. So he's not the only, like Ty Lopez did that for 8 hours, except he did it outside his house. So Jay is not the only one that does this, and there are non-black people that does a similar tactic that he does. It doesn't mean what he's selling snake oil. It just means that that's how he knows that people respond to. That's all it is.
Okay. And it seems to me now let's go ahead and talk about some of the naysayers, and the Yvette Carnells, the Tone Talks, now me personally, I don't actually have a problem with people being skeptical and running this through the gauntlet, because I feel that historically, as black folks, we have not been skeptical enough. We have not fact checked enough. We weren't skeptical enough of Marcus Garvey's movement. We weren't skeptical enough of the Nation of Islam and what they were doing. We weren't skeptical enough of the civil rights movement and how that movement,
all that comes down to it's not so much about being skeptical, it's more about being informed and being ignorant.
And that's what I mean. Is being skeptical as a means of informing yourself fully as much as possible so you can make a smart decision.
Well, a lot of that is because you got too many black people with individual agendas, but they want to act like they got movement storefronts. And I'm not talking necessarily about all those people you mentioned. I'm talking about the population. The population it's not, when people use these words like skepticism, you got people that are skeptical just to be skeptical. Like you got, like, for instance, take Tone Talks, for example. Tone Talks believe everything that has to do with black business is a fraud, because Tone Talks believes that you need transformative government only to change your situation. Now, I'm not saying that black people are not owed reparations, but you ain't going to get reparations if you don't have a stronger political footprint. You're not going to get, which Tone agrees with, but you're not going to get a stronger political footprint. That's like saying that I'm tired of you. Okay, that's like me saying that, okay, let's say you're a gang leader in the Bloods and you've robbed my house. That's like me saying that I'm tired of these motherfuckers robbing my house. I need the Bloods to give me, you know what? This is a better example. Let's say you had crooked police officers. Let's say they're black, so people don't get triggered. Or saying Blue Lives Matter. And let's say, like in Baltimore, let's say something like that, because recently some black folks went to jail for some crooked bullshit. let's say they were like doing attacks, like kind of like what gangs do, like a protection tax. And let's say you said, I'm tired of them doing a protection tax. I want a gun because I'm going to shoot them. That's like you expecting the police to provide you the gun. That's how dumb that is. A government dominated by white people, even in areas where black people dominate the population, white people are not going to give you the keys to basically take their market share. They're not going to do that because white people look at this like war. They look at business as war by other means. And they will deploy warlike tactics if they think something's valuable enough to do so. And black people don't understand that. It's not so much about being skeptical. Let's be honest. You mentioned all these black organizations. Black people Black people have always been more skeptical of their own people than they have of white people in the United States. You know, even
right.
so, black people always. So, for instance, how many people are in the Nation of Islam really? Black people respect what Farrakhan Nation does, but black people are not really in the Nation of Islam like that. You know, and black, as far as the civil rights movement, that's more. It wasn't as many black people in the civil rights movement that really want to talk like that. A lot of those people. A lot of that was just, okay, they're there and white people promote the civil rights movement. Because let's be clear here, because I am a follower of Marcus Garvey, and I don't take offense to you saying skeptical of Marcus Garvey, but I believe W.E.B. Du Bois. You want to talk about somebody being skeptical, city? W.E.B. Du Bois was a fucking coon, and a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know the W.E.B. Du Bois. I don't give a damn how much you disagree with a black person. When you work with white people to destroy another black person, I don't give a fuck if it's R. Kelly. That is a coon act. Because if the guy is really that big of a deal, we handle them niggas in-house. We got to stop trying to run. And I know that's not what you're suggesting. And let me make this clear. I'm not a fan of R. Kelly. But the problem is when White Daddy handles R. Kelly, we can't address the fact that the reason R. Kelly still makes money is because black women support R. Kelly. White people don't support R. Kelly. Black men don't support R. Kelly. Black women support R. Kelly. But if you let White Daddy just handle your business, this is why black women love calling the police on our ass. Because we have this habit, we want to run a White Daddy. So when it comes to what, you can agree or not agree with Marcus Garvey. But when W.E.B. Du Bois used white people to basically get Marcus Garvey banished from America, playing that ghost, and I do believe that a ghost in the door can exist, but we got too many black folks that want to play the ghost in the door when they're really agents. And W.E.B. Du Bois was one of the original ones, and he was one of the archetypes of the Boule. And the Boule does exist. Jack and Jill does exist. These are real life organizations, and they have isolated themselves from black people. And when I say black people, I'm not just talking about black people that are thugs or this and that. They have compartmentalized themselves from all black folks. And a lot of the very civil rights motherfuckers you're talking about, city, come out of the Boule. The Roland Martins and all of those people that misdirect black people, they come out of those organizations, those Greek fucking fraternities. I know a lot of these. But see, those dudes, now you notice how I said that I'm a follower of Marcus Garvey. See, all these people, just because that you may think they're not good for black people, that don't mean that they play for the same team. And by the way, I do know some people that come out of those organizations that are good people. Shout out to Foxfire. You know, Foxfire always gets mad when I rail too hard against them, because I do know people that are good people, because the younger ones tend to be better, but the older ones are on, and I'm light skinned, but the older ones are on that light skin only shit, which I don't like. That's the biggest gripe I have with them. So understand that, but see, again, that's because black people don't take ownership of their history. So they don't know the truth. At the end of the day, none of these guys are ever perfect. Ever. But some of them are more net positives and negatives. And Marcus Garvey was definitely more of a net positive. I mean, you're talking about going to Africa and all that. This is the architect of Pan-Africanism. This is the architect of all of that. So
okay,
I mean,
I wasn't like being disparaging towards Marcus Garvey.
And
No,
you should.
what
Now
I
let me
was
say, too,
what I was saying. Go ahead.
yeah, you can criticize people, but let me give you another example. Yvette Carnell could have criticized Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, but she was a coward and waited till she died to do that. You see what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? That's what I'm talking about. Now, if you want to, or Tone Talks, he wants to critique the concept of business as an economic solution, right? Why doesn't Tone Talk have the balls to debate Boyce Watkins, let alone debate debate Dr. Clark Anderson, a guy that's been in government, written books, owns business. He's done all of this shit. You see what I'm saying? These
Yeah.
people never expose themselves to being critiqued. They get behind their fucking microphone. You see me, I'll get in the gauntlet because I'm not here to be right. I'm here to find consensus, and I'm here to basically find out what the truth is. If the truth leads me to, like, for instance, you think it makes me feel good when it dawned. It took me to be 27, 28 years old before it dawned on me that we live in a matriarchy in the black community. Do you understand how bad that makes a strong black man feel? That you come from a group that is a matriarchy? That doesn't feel good. The only other group you can explain is like that is in the Philippines, Filipino men.
Yeah, and there's also a couple of tribes in China, uh, that are like that as well.
Yeah, but my point is, it doesn't feel good. You know what I'm saying? That's like black women coming to realization nobody wants me because I'm too fucking masculine. When you come to that realization that that's your group and that's how your group is viewed, it's almost like, okay, let me say it this way. It's almost like when people gain weight, their self-image doesn't match how they look, and this is true for men too. Because you have a certain kind of, like when you have you grow the dad bod or something like that, or if you're a woman you get pregnant, you don't understand how big you've gotten. And this is true for men and women, so I'm not beating up the women. So your brain, your self-image is not in a proper alignment. It's out of alignment with how you really look. When you actually walk by a mirror, a full mirror, and you actually see it, I've heard people say this. They start crying because it dawns on them. Now, I didn't do that when I didn't cry, but it really hits you when it says, wow, we're in the African American community is a matriarchy. And let's keep it real. Yes, the black women have done a lot and they've done some treachery. Make no mistake. And I believe in 80-20 rule. 20% of black women are on point. 80% of them have varying degrees of dysfunction. So people know I'm not railing against all black women. But black men have to hold that L ultimately because we allowed that to happen. Because you have to ask yourself, how can you fight white people if you can't even conquer your own fucking mothers? And to a certain extent, black men did not. This wasn't because yes, the matriarchy is powered by white supremacy, but black men, we defer to our women as a group, and we allowed our women to take that kind of control. We never said we are going to exert ourselves. That's why stuff like the Negro Manosphere and a lot of this red pill shit is, a lot of people are like, what the fuck are you doing? Because they're so used to us bending over and fucking taking.
Right.
And that's
Right.
an L we gotta hold as a group.
It is, man. It is, and but you're absolutely right on that. But I think we had a pretty good conversation on this.
Yeah.
Like I said, this was just my first like hangout on my channel. I just wanted to go ahead and have a brief discussion on this with you, but I also want to talk about more things in the future with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the next one I want to talk about with you, I know I promised you we do this, is why Democrats ain't shit.
Okay.
And I know I promised do that. Well, we only talk about why Democrats ain't shit.
Absolutely. And I used to be like even my own political views are they're kind of changing a little bit.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring you on.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe. So what am I doing tomorrow? Yeah. If not tomorrow, if you're not busy tomorrow, maybe Sunday. But I wanted to talk about have a discussion on politics.
Better. Sunday would be better.
Okay.
And I know I got a couple other hangouts in the queue. Just so you all know, I'm a cross between Michael Bloomberg and Colin Powell politically. Minus, I'm not as anti-gun as Michael Bloomberg. Other than that, I'm pretty much in the middle. I'm more of a technocrat. I'm like, you know, I just want this shit to work. But I'm more conservative socially. You know, this liberal bullshit needs to go. This gay bull. Well, I ain't trying to send you shit to Patreon, but you get what I'm saying. Feminism. You know, I don't believe that. You know, when it comes to our women, when it comes to them wanting to be bailed out, you know, automation kicks in and all of that. I am not on that forgiveness bullshit. I'm like, if you don't, I don't forgive who doesn't repent. Because if you don't repent, you won't change, which means I'm opening this up to happen. Either not to me, to my son, or to my grandson, as far as women getting out of pocket again. And so, you know, so that's how my views are for people that's listening, so you understand where I'm coming from. And yes, I date black women. If I have a kid, it will be with a black woman. If I get married, it will be a black woman. But I do fuck all kinds of women. But mainly I fuck black women. So people know where I'm coming from. But anyway, yeah, this was great. This was quick, sweet. You know, next time, you know, it was good. Get your thoughts out.
Okay, great. And with that, I want to thank the audience for coming and watching.
How many people are watching, by the way?
It's not that many people, tell you the truth, but I'm pretty sure a lot more people will watch it once it's actually posted on my channel.
Yeah, I'll give it a week. I'll give it a week or two, probably a week, and then I'll post it on my channel and link it.
Okay.
Yeah, that way, you know, you can get some exposure. Because I got 752 subscribers now. And I'm looking to take that to 5,000. Man, catch up with some folks.
Okay.
And yeah, man. So like I said, man, I appreciate you inviting me, man.
Okay, thanks, bro. And I'll hit you up, man.
Yeah, same to you. Peace.
All right. Peace.